So as you saw right there, Wuthering Waves has announced Qiuyuan as well as Galbrena alongside their attribute and weapon type. Well, obviously Galbrena was pistols, and then it looks like she is a fusion character. You could say it was implied from the other art that they've released prior to this. If we go to the media section right here, Galbrena with this Hellfire to consume them all. And then for Qiuyuan, it does say one strike to settle it all. Doesn't really imply a win, but it is what it is. But in any case, I wanted to make this video because I'm just making maybe assumptions or kind of like predictions on what kind of characters they will be. So to start things off with Qiuyuan, being Arrow Sword is definitely very interesting because Kartathea, well, firstly we have ARover, so that's the free-to-play Arrow Sword, and then Kartathea was the first summonable limited 5-star that is Arrow Sword, and then not long after that, like just give it like maybe 3 months or so, in like 3 to 4 months we get another Arrow Sword for Qiuyuan. Now I would like to say that Qiuyuan is like a direct replacement to ARover as an assumption, but like one of the reasons why I'm only like maybe 5% hesitant on that is because ARover's signature weapon doesn't really apply to Qiuyuan at all. Because, well, outside of the healing increase, right? But the damage amp only applies to Rover themselves. So this weapon, albeit supposed to be for Arrow teams, cannot be used by Qiuyuan. So assuming that, so making the assumption that Qiuyuan is like the 5-star alternative to ARover might be a bit, not 100% at the very least. So in this case, it's definitely safe to assume, well, I guess you can use Emerald Genesis, but it is relatively safe to assume that you might have to pull for Qiuyuan's weapon because swords are not really, well, outside of Emerald Genesis anyway, well, I guess there's not really supporting weapons. Now, I'm saying support because for some reason I'm assuming that Qiuyuan might be a support, but I do want him to be like his own being, maybe his own special team. But considering Kartathea's kit and how locked in ARover is in that team, as in ARover has the limited ability, currently unique to himself, assuming everyone is S0, assuming all of your limited 5-stars are S0, ARover is your only source of increasing the amount of Arrow Erosion stacks a target can receive, increasing it by 3 to go from 3 to 6, and then Kartathea's passives go up to 5. I'm not sure if I can show it here, if I can find it, but basically the more stacks you have, well, I guess we'll just go with the obvious one for now, the Resonance Liberation. Basically, the more stacks you have, the more damage it does, up to 5 stacks, and default we have 3 Arrow Erosion stacks at max, so we're missing 40% damage there, but 60% is still a good amount, but it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of link between these two. And also, to be fair, Kartathea also has ARover related buffs. I think just this one, ARover, with the additionally 25 win strings upon casting his liberation. Sorry, their liberation. So it does make players feel very restricted when using Kartathea teams, because maybe a good amount of them feel like they should use ARover because that's where you do get the max damage when it comes to dealing maximum liberation damage. And I think the increased Arrow Erosion stacks also provide increased Arrow Erosion damage, and so it does sync well with Fleur-de-Lis and Kartathea Fleur-de-Lis kit. So Qiuyuan being Arrow Sword, there is a high likelihood in my opinion that he might be a support for the Arrow Erosion team, because that's currently the new set of Arrow Erosion related stuff out there. Now, Galbrena. Apologies, I'm a bit ill currently, but you know, let's ignore that. So Galbrena being fusion, the first thing that comes into mind is the current fusion team. I guess how Kuro Games intended the fusion team to be at this moment in time. They don't have any fusion status element, fusion status effect related characters, and it's currently just pure fusion damage team with an intended rotation between Changli, Lupa, and Brant, because they all have synergistic outros that mesh well with each other in a triangle. Now, with Galbrena in the mix being fusion and pistols, I believe she can still be put in that team, perhaps. It really depends on what her outro and her damage type will be. I guess the only issue with that is if she would be able to fit in that team in a circular or triangular rotation, then she would have to essentially replace one of the fusion members in that current trio directly. So for example, she would have to be skill damage and buffs liberation damage, so like a copy paste of Changli, in order to be able to safely replace Changli there. And so it's safer to say that Galbrena might be the beginning of a new archetype for fusion, you know, a new wave of fusion team. Just like how Jinsei was the pure spectral damage type, and with the release of, I might have to blow my nose there, but yeah, so from Jinsei as pure spectral damage to Zani, who's spectral frazzle oriented, right? So in this case, I think Galbrena might be the start of a new archetype for fusion. And so, although she might still be usable within the current fusion team, I think later on she's going to be your quote-unquote investment for those kinds of teams. But yeah, that's basically about it. There's not really much for me to go on here. I guess unless you go through leaks. I'm not sure if there are any leaks right now, but yeah. Qiuyuan, I feel like I'm like 60-40 in him being a arrow erosion support or enhancer in a sense, and then Galbrena being the pioneer for the fusion status effect archetype. So yeah, that's basically about it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed my rambling there. I am a bit ill currently, but hopefully this will, you know, provide a little bit of insight into what I think about these upcoming characters. In terms of Augusta and I'm probably gonna have to skip them because I haven't been playing since August. I mean, I haven't been playing during August because I was away, and so I don't really have the Asterite to go in on both of them. Unfortunately, I'm missing out on the Sun and Moon, but you know, it is what it is. In any case, let me know what you think down in the comments below. It's been your boy Nitrostorm. I'll see you guys in the next stream or video. Peace.